Hey everyone, it's Angela. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my experience with the most creepiest and weirdest Airbnb host ever. I'm currently in a new Airbnb, which is way better than my last one, but the only thing that I don't like is that the window is like sort of permanently open, so you can't really close it fully. You can hear everything that's going on outside. So I'm sorry about that, but anyway, let's get into the story time. So this all happened in my first week of arriving in Korea. If you guys aren't really updated, I'm gonna leave a link to a video that explains everything. But basically, when I first arrived in Korea, I was under the impression that I would just be traveling completely alone. But it turns out a couple of days later, my boyfriend surprised me and now we're traveling Korea together. And just keep that in mind while listening to the story, because I know I could get a few comments like, oh, why did you do this if Eric was with you? Or why didn't you just tell Eric or something like that? So yeah, just keep that in mind. When I first looked at the site, everything seemed perfect. Like the reviews said everything was great. It had a lot of features and I thought it would be perfect for me since the price was reasonable and the size was just good for one traveler. And I decided to book it, and when I booked it, the host seemed very nice. Nothing seemed wrong with him. He welcomed me and he said, you know, if you need anything, let me know. And he asked what time I would be checking into the Airbnb so that he could greet me upon arrival. A lot of hosts will go the extra step to try to greet you. Some hosts will even pick you up. So it's not a rare thing that we met before I checked in. And so when I arrived to the Airbnb, I met the host. He was super nice. He even grabbed my luggage for me. He showed me around the whole accommodation and then he left. So everything was all good. So I got comfortable. I stayed in that accommodation for I think 2 days until I got a message from the host on Airbnb. He asked me for my katok details. His reason was that if I needed anything, I could just contact him quicker on katok. And so of course I was like, okay, no worries, like here's my ID. And he messaged me on katok and we started talking from there. We were just doing a little bit of small talk. He was asking me certain questions about myself. He was like, where are you from? How old are you? And then he asked me this question, which I thought was a little bit strange since I never brought up the topic before. He basically asked me in Korean, did you come to Korea to meet your boyfriend? And I thought that was really weird. When I first heard that, I thought, does he know my YouTube channel? Like I thought maybe he watches me on YouTube or something like that. And then I was like, bitch, you're not that famous, like calm down. But anyway, I just told him no. I said that I was coming to Korea to just meet up with friends. And then after that, he asked me if my friends were male. So that was like the first red flag. But obviously I just ignored that. I'm staying in his property and he's the host and I just wanted to be nice. So I completely ignored it, and that was that for our katok conversation. So the next day, he actually ends up going inside the Airbnb. Now, the Airbnb is pretty safe though. It's got like a bunch of CCTV cameras, and then in my personal room, it's got like a lock that you can only obviously open from the inside. But he ended up coming in to clean up a couple of things. I heard him vacuuming and like deep cleaning the bathroom. And then after that, he knocks on my door and then he ended up inviting me to have chicken with him for lunch. Again, this is not something out of the ordinary. A lot of Airbnb hosts ask this just to get to know their guests, especially if you're like a solo traveler. So on that particular day, I actually didn't have any plans and I was like, okay, sure, like let's go have lunch together. Little did I know that I would realize how psycho this Airbnb host really is. So all is good. We get into the restaurant, we sit down, and I noticed he's staring at my leg very intensely. And as soon as I noticed it, he's like, oh, you have a hair on your leg, do you want me to get it for you? And I'm like, no, that's okay, like I can get it myself. He's like, no, I'll grab it for you. And I'm like, it's fine, like I've got the hair, like it's not that big of a deal. I soon realized that this guy has a talent of turning every single conversation sexual. I think I mentioned that a lot of Koreans come to Australia on working holiday visas, and that's why I'm able to have like a lot of Korean friends and a lot of opportunities like to practice my Korean. And out of the blue, he starts talking about how, now these are his words, not mine, Korean women use foreign men and purposely have children with them so that they can get a visa. Now, keep in mind, this whole conversation was in Korean, so I didn't get everything. But one thing I do know is that when I can't understand something, like when I'm slowly not able to understand the majority of the conversation, it's always about like a specific topic where there's like specific vocab that I just can't get. And randomly throughout the conversation, he asked me to Google translate this word. He asked me to look up this word, translate it, and memorize it. And when it came out, the meaning in English was pre-ejaculation. Are you serious? He told me that this vocabulary was essential so that I could understand more Korean conversations. Like, if the conversation isn't with you, then I'm never gonna have to say that word in Korean. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, are you sure that's the right word? And so when I told him, I'm not gonna memorize that word, like that's creepy, and I don't want to talk about this topic, he apologized and he said, oh, okay, no worries, let's talk about something else. And that was that. So we stopped talking about that and we get onto this conversation about like tanning and like I guess different beauty standards and like differences between like Western and Korean beauty. And he asked me if I like to tan, and I told him, I said I do like to use like some self-tanning lotions occasionally. And this bitch had the nerve to ask me what I wear when I tan. I wear clothes when I tan, okay? Like, you don't need to know anything else. And of course he says, oh, no, don't misunderstand. I'm so sorry. I hope you don't feel uncomfortable. Please continue eating. Like, you know, I just want to get to know my guest and culture difference. And I'm like, bitch, this ain't a culture difference, okay? This is the difference of me being normal and you being insane. But anyway, now for our third and final conversation, which made me get my ass up, or at least come up with an excuse to leave. So we were talking about being like an Airbnb host. I asked him, what's it like? Like, is it a full-time thing for you? Is it something on the side? Like, do you like being a host? All that stuff. And he told me that he enjoys being an Airbnb host, but sometimes he's in situations where he feels very uncomfortable. And I was like, well, you're not the only one feeling uncomfortable. But anyway, keep going. He spoke about how since there are CCTVs in his Airbnb, like in the accommodation, sometimes he sees more than what he wants to see. And I'm like, okay, but there's no CCTV like in the bathroom and the bedrooms, right? And he's like, no, of course not. But I find that a lot of American and Japanese women, they tend to be very promiscuous and flaunt their bodies in ways which I feel uncomfortable about. Whenever they come out of the bathroom, they don't even put a towel on. They just walk around the house naked. And I said, okay, I have trouble believing that. Number one, like, you can't stereotype. And number two, that's just not true. And he's like, oh, no. You wouldn't understand because pretty girls like you, they don't flaunt their body like that. Not only that, but he made comparisons between me and his girlfriend, and he even said that he wishes he had a girlfriend like me and that he's jealous of my boyfriend. I was like, oh hell no. Like, I have got to go. Oh, and by the way, on top of all of those generalizations, he was making stereotypes about literally every single race. Like, he was mentioning how certain races would do this and certain races would do that, and I'm like, that is so untrue. I honestly had no words. I was like, this guy's crazy. I am so grateful that my checkout date is today, so thank God the day we went out to have lunch together was the day that I was checking out. So timing was perfect. I was able to leave the Airbnb, and now it's actually time for me to think about how I'm going to review the accommodation. I got a notification recently that I need to review the place. So I think I'm going to say something like, the accommodation itself was great, clean, matched photos, but the host was very unprofessional, made me feel uncomfortable at certain times, and spoke about many inappropriate topics, talking about other guests, and just being overall very disrespectful and disgusting. Yeah, that is my story. about that Airbnb host. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below letting me know what you think of this situation. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.